1, Chef Fit Podcast, episode 63. You are the secret ingredient, pal. Cam here, Petey on the other side of the video. And before we get started, make sure that you've subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you've left us a 5-star review on whatever thing you are listening or watching this on, whether that be YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. We need your support. We need your help. So again, once you've finished listening to this episode, make sure you've shared it on social media and tag someone who needs to hear it. Okay, Petey.
That is not, for you watching on YouTube, that is not a parachute that Cam is wearing.
That is the gimp suit part 1 that I'm wearing currently. The suspenders. It's actually called, I wasn't even going to fucking bring it onto the podcast, so I forgot to take it off. This yoke, for anyone listening, I'm wearing a fucking red, basically looks like a harness on my shoulders, because that's kind of it is what it is, really. A harness on my shoulders. It's called a bow tie. It was built by a lad called Donnie Thompson, who's a fucking big, massive powerlifter, who basically built this thing that you can wear on a daily basis that pulls your shoulders back and down. So everyone that struggles with posture, like my shoulders are not only fucked from years of work, but playing rugby and getting my shoulders broke apart, powerlifting from fucking lifting all the time. And shoulders have never been a good thing for me. Do you know what I mean? They've never been comfortable. I've always had fucking weird shit going on, like an impingement to my left shoulder. I've separated my AC joint of my right shoulder really badly, once. And, you know, a couple of other niggles and injuries that I've had that my shoulders are just, it's caught up with me and it's bit me in the arse. And now I can't do stuff in the gym that I would like to do in the gym. So me and Ella, my missus, have been talking about sorting it out and trying to figure it out. Since lockdown happened, I've been doing yoga. I fixed my back pain. And it's like, okay, what's the next thing? It's the shoulders. So I bought one of these things the other day. It wasn't too expensive, but it's a bit of an investment. It was like 60 or 70 euro. But what it does is it basically compresses the tendon in your pec. So your pec is your chest muscle. So that pec leads up into your shoulder, and then your bicep tendon. So the top of your bicep leads into your pec as well. So it compresses the tendon, pulls the shoulder joint back, and relaxes all the muscles in your back. So it's like the opposite of what happens to you in a kitchen. So if you're working over a surface in a kitchen all day, your shoulders protract. So that means they round forward, right? So that's what protract means, to push forward. Retract means to pull back. So your shoulder blades protract, they retract, they elevate, and they depress. So when you're fucking working all day, you're tensed up, so your shoulders elevate like fucking Quasimodo, and then your shoulders round forward like an old turtle. You do that for hours every single day.
Especially tall chefs. You ever see tall chefs posture? Yeah.
So they just have to go the extra, you know what I mean? They have to go the extra motion, or range of motion, I should say, to get into a position, which means they're going to suffer more. You know, like the countertops are usually quite low that you're chopping at or that you're cooking at. You know, it's a fucking pain in the hole. So this thing it's not, I'm yet to say it's a godsend, but I've been using it now for the past 2 or 3 days, and I've definitely felt my shoulders are more relaxed. Not feeling the pain as much. It's just about staying consistent with it. So that's why I'm going to actually take it off now, because I look like an absolute fucking millhouse. But hold on. There we go.
There you go. Rocking August rolling.
You know it. So yeah, that's the fucking bow tie. Check those out. You can get cheap posture harnesses in on Amazon for like 15 quid and shit.
I think I've seen ads for them pop up.
If it's
recently.
Something, you'd be very surprised. Like your shoulders are a weird one, you know. Like it's so easy to get lazy on stuff, and the prevention is definitely cheaper than the cure. But who the fuck is like, look, okay, right, well, you know, maybe if you're an athlete and you're looking after your shoulders to that extent, but it's very difficult to manage injuries and niggles and stuff like that, and making sure your posture is good. For me, I've fucking been on the receiving end of bad posture for years. You know what I mean? I haven't dealt with it. I've overlooked it. And it's bit me in the arse. So now it's time to sort it out. So that's the crack there.
I haven't spoke to you since the duathlon me and Limo did.
Smash the bollocks out of. Just explain to the old listeners there.
So what
that
the
was.
duathlon, not a biathlon, what I was calling it for the first 3 weeks, which is skiing and shooting. the Drimna biathlon. No, so we did the duathlon, which was 10K run, 40K cycle, and a 5K run. And it just popped up. A few of us were chatting within Sheffield about bikes, and then one of the lads, one of the heavy hitters, Paul Brown, came in and said, "Right, that's it. Let's do a duathlon, 10:45." And straight away, we just ran with it. And within 20 minutes, we were organising it, and then we gave ourselves 5 weeks to get ready for it. And 3 of us did it. I hadn't done that like that before. I thought it was great crack. Yeah. It really, really was. Myself and Limo set up for it properly. We ate well the day before. We slept well the night before. We got up early in the morning. We stretched out for well over an hour. Full mobility sessions, upper and lower body. Ate well. Like that morning, had a nice big bowl of porridge, a slice of toast, a few coffees, and then we set off on a 10K run. Right, so you know where my gaff is. We went from my house, which is like the KCR, up to Bushy Park. When we got into Bushy Park, we did the park run. Bushy Park is 2.5K from my house. Yeah. So we did the park run, that was 5K, and then 2.5K back. And then we came in, changed our shoes, jumped straight onto the bikes, and then cycled all the way downhill, down Clonbasil Street into the city centre. And on our way down, that was from my house to, say, Christchurch Cathedral, that was the feed zone, as they call it, on like a Grand Fondo or a big cycle. So we ate then for the first 15 minutes of the cycle, then cycled out to Bull Island, around about, straight back down, and then out to Dunleary.
Mad.
From Bull Island to Dunleary, from Dunleary into Terenure, no stops anywhere along the way. Had a couple of gels here and there, but the last bit of eating was done before 5K of the 40K cycle. So my planning on it was that I didn't want us eating anything within an hour of either of the runs.
Yeah.
So you can cycle with food in you, you can eat while you're cycling, but you can't run with food in you, and you can't eat while you're running.
Because the body's probably in motion far more when you're running, the fucking digestive system sloshing about, whereas you're on the bike, you're kind of, the torso's a bit stationary almost.
Yeah, big time. And when you're cycling long distances, you have to eat and you have to drink before. Right. If you get thirsty, it's too late. And if you get hungry, it's already too late. You have to get the carbs into you.
Yeah.
And we came back, and when we had the last 3 or 4K of the cycle from, say, Blackrock, it's all downhill to Terenure, like going straight back in towards town. And we were like, man, this is fucking brilliant. We're 15 minutes ahead of schedule on the cycle. And I said, I feel perfect. I absolutely feel perfect. He was like, yeah, so do I. I said, listen, we go home, we're just going to smash this. We'll give ourselves half an hour for the 5K. And we came home, got to the gaff. My house was the transition point for both times. Got to the house, put the bikes down, took the cleats off, shoes on, and then just started running. And then when we got down to Sundrive Road, we took a gel. And our plan was to go down the road into the Sundrive Park, 2 laps of the park, and then
back.
Done.
Yeah.
And then we have to walk back to the house as our cool down. Once we got off this little downhill at the start of the run, everything got all kind of fucked up, right? And I know now why it's not just a 15-kilometer run and a 40-kilometer cycle, or the other way around, or whatever. I know now why it is a cycle sandwiched between 2 runs. When we got into that last 5K, like, my gas tank was I was full, so I could have run. I felt like I could have run forever. I said I obviously could have cycled another 60K, no problem. My head was there, my arms was there, upper body, everything perfect. Lungs were great, but my legs were behind me, and it was the same with Liam. They were behind, and I did. They weren't sore. There was no pain. It was just, I was like, let's go, let's smash this, come on. And you're moving faster with your arm, but your legs are still just going at this pace. They're not even coming up off the ground fully.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're almost dragging them. Your foot is turning in as you're going along as well. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? He was like, oh. It's just not working.
There's something about distances like that. I suppose when I did a half marathon, it was a similar enough effect. It was like, it was actually far easier for me to stay in motion doing something than to stop. As soon as I stopped, it was like my legs, it's like they'd almost, because of the metabolites, you know what I mean? You're driving so much blood into a muscle and it's doing this, it's staying at the same speed, contracting over and over again for fucking ages. Do you know what I mean? Like hour and a half plus kind of shit. You know what I mean? And the leg or whatever your muscles that you're using, it doesn't have to be the legs, but the legs will generally just like anytime you try and change that speed after a while, it's actually not happening. You know what I mean? You've nearly the muscles have tapped out on their fuel sources at that stage. You're kind of just running on fucking, you know what I mean?
It was like, weird. So it was then another caffeine gel. Let's go. Just
to get it
put
finished.
your head down and then just get it finished. Yeah, that's what it was. But it was brilliant. We loved it, and it was our first time doing it. So our 10K was 1 hour and 10 minutes. So not like crazy over what a 10K on its own would be. And then the cycle, we had given ourselves 140. We did it in under an hour and a half. And then with the 5K, for some strange reason, we were shoulder to shoulder for like 3 hours. And then for the last 3K, he just went boom.
Did he?
Fucked off and left me. Yeah. He said he had to either run and get it done. Time wise, he said, right, the less time I'm running, the better, because my knees are starting to hurt.
Right.
And he goes, right, this is just me fighting the demons now, and he was gone. So he left me. I ripped him. I ripped him. He goes, listen, man, don't make me feel bad. I said, you should fucking feel bad.
You know, we've only been together here now for the past day, but see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was great. Can't wait to do the next one now.
I'd say so, man. That's fucking great.
It's
amazing achievement.
Yeah.
Big time. It's an amazing achievement, and it's also it's coming from your own proactivity as well, which is really fucking cool. You know what I mean? Where kind of the end of lockdown, I suppose, and that kind of shows. That shows that you haven't fucking dropped the ball at all. You know what I mean? And you tried to make the best of a bad hand, that you, after lockdown, you were actually able to do a duathlon, you know, like off your own accord, a 10K, a fucking 40K cycle and a 5K, and finish it and get it done, which is amazing. You know what I mean? It's really, really amazing. And I think, you know, I suppose I always try and tie stories like that into what we're talking about today. And, you know, the episode today is that you are the secret ingredient. Now that sounds cliche. It sounds like fucking woo-woo bollocks, but the truth is, and whatever
anti-woo-woo.
Yeah, it's the truth. And it's basically the fact that it will not work if you do not work. And I'll bring Peter's story back into it now in a while, but the reason that I'm talking about this, in Sheffield, we had a big influx, and we have had a really, really good lockdown towards the end. A lot of chefs joining up, a lot of chefs starting to make the change and make that step forward. And something that I saw with one or two of the chefs is that they had all this motivation starting off, and then they kind of started making excuses way, way too early, like way too early in the journey. And it wasn't all of them, it was only one or two. But they started making excuses way too early. Either dropping the ball with nutrition, skipping a session when they shouldn't have, you know what I mean? Like not fucking posting your food pictures, all the things that, especially at the beginning of Chef Fit, are like, they're do or die. Like you have to do them. There's no fuck. And if you don't do them, like someone's going to come down hard on you. You know what I mean? And it's not that coming down hard on someone is always the way to go, but in those situations it is. You got to learn, you know, the fucking standard is high and that you can't drop your standards, especially at this stage in the game. And the thing that came to my mind was all these chefs have great intentions when they start, as everyone does when they make some kind of lifestyle change. Think about the last time you tried to join the gym, or you fucking started eating different food and trying to be healthier, working towards whatever goal you had to achieve. You always start off with motivation. You always start off with good intentions, which isn't a bad thing at all. But what happened was these chefs will look at something like Chef Fit, like most people would look at a program or a diet and say, okay, you know, here's this really cool thing for chefs, right? Here's this really cool thing for chefs. This might work for me. And when they started off, it's all great and they're implementing the stuff. But they haven't fully made the decision in their own head to commit, because they're still somewhat placing the onus on the thing that they're doing. So for example, like, oh, well, I couldn't fucking, that diet doesn't work for me. That'd be something you might say to yourself. Or Chef Fit doesn't work for me, or that exercise program doesn't work for me, or this doesn't work for me, or that doesn't work for me. And the reality is, these same people that say that these things don't work are the ones you give up after a week or two. And when you give up in such a short amount of time, the problem isn't the thing that you're doing. The problem is how committed you are to doing it. So as I said to the chef, and, you know, I think it was Peter and, you know, Andy, who were my two lieutenants, they came down hard on the guy for making the excuse, and rightly so. It was like, called him out on the bullshit excuse. And he said, oh yeah, you know, I always make excuses. And it's like, no, fuck that. Like, get out and get it done now. Now, when you have the tribe, if you make excuses by default, you're going to get called out on it. And eventually you're going to stop making excuses, or you're going to fuck off. One of the two. But that's what has to happen in those situations. You have to be called on it, and you have to be able to, you have to be told that this is the standard. This is what's expected of you. You need to fucking rise to that standard. Now,
yeah, how you react is very, very important.
How you react. Some people are coachable, some people are not coachable. That's another massive thing to touch on. Some people are coachable, some people are not coachable. I would consider myself a very coachable person. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter about what I know. If you can help me in some way, I'm going to listen to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what coachability means. Whereas some people will they won't take advice. If they get criticized with constructive feedback, they won't take the feedback because they're too worried about the fact that they've been criticized in some way, shape, or form. Like, that's a big, big difference. And hopefully a lot of the chefs, when you're in a group, you can't really react like that, because it's like, you're not the only one in there. It's not as if someone's saying something unfair or untrue. If the thing that's being said to you is true and you still don't accept it, chances are you're a fucking numpty. So anyway, back to the story. The chef gives up after like 3 days. Doesn't give up from the program, but kind of gives up on the routine that he was supposed to be following, where he was supposed to be exercising, didn't bother doing it until he was called out. Nutrition hasn't been great until he's called out. And I did a video that struck a chord with a lot of the chefs, and it's basically outlining that it will not work if you don't work. And I stated very, very clearly, and that's what inspired this episode. It's that if you do not do the work, the thing that you're doing will not work. And that is true with everything in life. You know, there's a lot of cliches that people throw about, you know, life is what you make it, and, you know, the power is in your hands. But it actually is, even though it sounds like absolute fucking bullshit, it's true. You know what I mean? The power is in your hands, and you're the determining factor. And every chef that I start coaching, I always say to them on day one on their call that you need to be the driver of your results. I can't show up and do this shit for you. So if you've come in with all these problems that you need to fix, whether that be your confidence, whether that be your mental health, whether that be your physical health, you know what I mean? And you're working towards some big fucking goals, and you're looking to fix things in your relationship, maybe in your home life, maybe in your career, maybe in how you operate as a person. Like, if you come in with all these big goals and these big intentions and these big problems to fix, well, it falls down to you to fix them. You know what I mean? Like, if you give up and make excuses easily, you can't blame anything else other than yourself. And that's what this chef is slowly starting to realize. And that's why Chef Fit's a powerful thing, because you can come in with all these self-limiting beliefs, which is what a lot of people have. They have limiting beliefs. Like, I don't have time. I always make excuses. I don't have energy. I don't have this. And then you're coming into a tribe of people who work in the same job as you, but hold themselves to a much higher standard and operate the way you would ideally like to operate. What happens when you see that? Well, it puts you in your place. And rightly so, it does. It puts you in your place. And sometimes that's what you need. You need a bit of tough love. You need someone who's fucking gone through the same thing as you, who's succeeded, you know, to kind of go, actually, pal, that's fucking bullshit. This is what you need to fucking do. Fix it. You know, that's a really, people might think, oh, you know, fucking criticism, whatever else. Get over yourself. That's a really positive thing to have in your life. Honestly, people who keep you in check. And the idea of Chef Fit is that you get held in check and you realize that it's on you. And that's one of the most powerful lessons that I can impart on any chef, whether they change their life or not. Yeah, whether they change their life or not. Because some chefs come in and they get marginal results and they get benefits, and they might walk away because they weren't committed, because they weren't the driver of their results. But I can guarantee you one fucking thing, that when they do walk away, they realize that the only thing that causes them to fail is themselves. And that's an important realization for every human being. The only reason that you fail at something is because of you, not the thing that you're doing. And if you can realize that, that's very empowering, because it means that ultimately the ball's in your fucking court and it's your call. You know, it's your call. And on a day-to-day basis, it's like, it's your call whether you want to wake up and do that run before work. It's your call whether you want to make that time to prepare a couple of meals for the week so you're not eating shit and picking at stuff. It's your call if on your day off you wake up, plan your day and go and do some shit that you should be doing productively around the house or exercise wise, so you can earn a bit of relaxation later on in the day. Like, that's all your call. And you can say, yes, I'm going to do it, or no, I'm not going to do it. But the answer to that question is the reason why you're either stuck or why you're winning. And in this world today, with fucking everything going on, social media, fucking riots, coronavirus, whatever, like, fill in the fucking gap of what's happening. You know, everyone is talking about rights, and rightly so in that situation. Everyone's talking about rights. Everyone's talking about, you know, they're looking for scapegoats for certain things. You got to understand that your personal life doesn't work like that. There can't be a scapegoat for you failing. The only scapegoat is you, because there's a reason why everyone's a human being, but some are really successful and some are failures. Do you know what I mean? And the people who are successful, yeah, it all comes down to fucking ownership. It all comes down to being responsible for yourself and what you're doing. And the second that you stop taking responsibility for yourself and your actions, and the second that you start saying, oh, well, like, I couldn't fucking keep up with it because, you know what I mean, they had me eating fucking goji berries on Thursday. Do you know what I mean? It's like that kind of shit. It's like, man, that's nothing to do with it. It's absolutely zero to do with it. I remember I had another, you know, and I'll give you some examples. I don't mention names, but there's always stories and past experiences that I can share with people are very, very beneficial, because they're like lessons that you can take away. There was another chef that we had in a long time ago. Personal level, wasn't a bad guy. He's from America, and he was, I can remember at one point, like, he would never do the work, basically. You know what I mean? My one big thing is, don't talk a big game if you're not fucking backing any of it up. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to talk, you need to be working hard. And if you're not working hard, don't bother opening your mouth. That's my personal opinion. And that's the way I like things in Sheffield as well. Don't come in and talk shit if you're not backing up what you're talking. So anyway, this guy would talk about, like, I don't know, nothing wrong with Americans, but they're very, you know, they romanticize being a chef quite a lot, you know, and whatever else. And it was like, made his life seem like it was something out of a fucking fairy tale or something. It's like, nah, man, like, you're working in a fucking Italian restaurant, like, chill out, you're grand, you're fair play to you for doing what you're doing. But after a while, he would fall off track because he wouldn't show up and do the work. So he'd make excuses like, I was working late last night. You know what I mean? I don't have time. I'm too tired to do that on these days, you know. And slowly but surely his results went from, like, slowly gaining a bit of traction to just nothing, to actually going backwards most weeks. And his thing was that, and the reason for him going backwards was because I wasn't checking in with him to see had he carried out the tasks that I told him to do that week. So every week in Sheffield, I'll give people, you check in on the weekend, you do something called the Weekly Temple, where you answer a load of questions on how your week went. So, like, what training did you get done? How many sessions did you check in and track? What was your sleep like out of 10? What was your headspace out of 10? You know what I mean? What were your energy levels like? What did you struggle with this week? What was really good for you this week? What do we need to improve on next week? What 3 things are you committed to doing next week? I'll then look through that temple, and I will then give you 3 tasks and consolidate the 3 things you need to focus on. So I'll always give you on a Monday or a Tuesday, okay, cool, this is the 3 things I want you to get done. I want you to get this amount of training sessions done. I want you to get this amount of mobility sessions done. And if you're struggling with your sleep, this is the nighttime routine that I want you to execute step by step. This is how you do it. And this guy's reason for him failing in the entire program was because I didn't check in with them later on in the week to see, was he following his nighttime routine? So because I wasn't checking in to see, was he following his nighttime routine, he was drinking a shoulder of vodka at night.
That's what I was going to say. But that, as far as ownership goes,
Zero.
when he was putting that, he would often say that I drank a bottle of vodka last night, but he didn't say it in an ownership way.
Yeah.
He said I had to drink a bottle of vodka last night
Yeah. So
when I got
that's
home.
case and fucking point. Yeah, and again, it's nothing personal. The person's like, they're not a bad person by any means, but especially as I know, I always speak about both genders. Obviously, ownership is a massive, massive thing. For men, I think this is a big problem because so many men will do shit like that and not see the issue. Do you know what I mean? Like, you won't actually see the folly of your ways. You're here to change your ways. You're here to change your lifestyle. You're here to turn your life around because you're extremely unhappy and you're extremely unhealthy. But you're still going to be drinking heavily every night and not just having a couple of beers. Like, you're drinking a fucking, you know what I mean? A good whack of vodka that would put most people on their fucking arse. That's what you're drinking every single night. And then it's my fault because I didn't check in to see, did you go to bed on time? That is the ultimate example of what not to do. And just even listening to what I'm saying there, you know what I mean? Like, think about it. And that person thought they were doing the right thing and that it was, oh, well, chef, it just doesn't work for me. And it's like, no, you didn't work in any way, shape, or form. That's why you didn't get anything done. That's why you didn't get any results. And for anyone listening to this, you need to heed those words. You need to understand that, like, the only thing that needs changing is you. If you've been in this industry for a long time, there's a very, very good chance that you've built up a lot of bad habits. And I'm not criticizing someone because they drink heavily. I'm criticizing someone because they don't get results because they don't bother their arse working hard. And then they're still drinking and then they blame me or they blame whoever. Like, that's the problem. It's not that people, I have bad habits, Peter has bad habits, whatever. We're all fucking human beings. That's not the judgment thing. But you got to understand, when you put yourself in a fucking place where you're going to go, okay, right, I'm going to make a change here. I want to do this. You know what I mean? Whatever your goal is, whatever your problem is, I want to do this. I want to commit to fucking changing my ways here. You got to be committed to changing your ways, not just trying something. So it's not like, don't just try to be healthier, embrace a healthy life. Like, it's not just, okay, well, I'm just going to be going to the gym and seeing what happens, or I'm just going to, try and eat healthier. Your goal is not to try and eat healthier. Your goal is to be a healthy person. Yeah. Your goal is to be a fit person. Like, what's the identity that you need to craft for yourself? Ultimately, I say to people when they start off, yeah, it's not about what you're doing. It's about who you are. Who is that fucking person that you need to become? Fucking 3, 6, 12 months from now, who is that person? What habits do they have? And chances are, like, they're going to be disciplined, as Peter said. Chances are they're going to be responsible of what they do. Chances are they're going to be fucking team players. They're going to be responsible and resourceful. They're going to try and figure out problems when they come up. They're going to try and find solutions to things, and they're going to stay consistent. That's the kind of person that you want to be. So when you're trying any kind of lifestyle change, don't just seek to change your outcome. Don't just seek to go, okay, well, I'm doing this to lose a bit of weight. I'm doing this to feel a bit healthier. You're not going to do jack shit when that's your goal. You're not going to do anything. I guarantee you that. You'll do it for a week and you'll stop. Your goal needs to be changing the way you operate as a person. So go back to that chef I'm talking about. It's like, wants to lose weight, wants to make a positive change, but you're still drinking fuckloads of vodka every single night. I'm not saying you go cold turkey overnight, but what I'm saying is that needs to be addressed. Like, that is slowing you down more than fucking anything. Like, how do you feel after drinking a shoulder of vodka every night? You'd be in fucking rag order waking up every day. It's like putting a limiter on your car. It's mental to think that and it's not a judgment thing. It's just like, what are you doing? What are you here to do? Is the drinking in line with what you want to do? No. So what needs to happen here is you need to address the drinking problem. And for a lot of you, it's going to be the same thing. The diet doesn't work for me. Okay, well, the diet doesn't work for you, but why doesn't it work for you? Oh, well, I'm still fucking snacking. I'm still picking. Well, why are you still picking and snacking? Oh, I don't know. Well, I don't fucking tell you exactly why. Because you stay up late every single night. You get shit sleep. And then when you wake up, your blood sugars are all over the fucking shop. And then you're looking for sugar all day because you're exhausted for a pick-me-up. That's why you keep picking at shit. So it's nothing to do with the diet that you're doing. It's to do with the fact that you're not fucking fixing the patterns and the ill discipline and the bad habits that have been causing you to get into the shit in the first place. And you will never fix that unless you're responsible for fixing it. So again, don't just seek to achieve an outcome. Like, you are the one that must change. And like, another good example of that is fucking Peter talking about his duathlon. So like, Peter wasn't doing a duathlon off his own accord 2.5 years ago. He was jumping out on a bike and getting out for a cycle, but it wasn't a conscious, like, I'm going to challenge myself and the other chefs to do a fucking race, an endurance race. I'm going to challenge someone to do an endurance race and push myself to do it. It's like this whole concept of you must be the driver of the result. Well, the truth is, like, if you're the driver of the result, you have to fucking, Peter knows the importance of setting that challenge and pushing himself forward to do it. Whereas someone who's irresponsible is waiting for someone else to come in and tell them that. It's not that you have to do a duathlon, but it's the fact that you have a mindset of, this is me in the driver's seat driving down the road. I'm not the passenger. And for you to be in full control of your life, no matter what the fucking thing you're trying to do is, to be in full control, right? To actually have the reins and the direction that you're going in and to achieve the outcomes, you must get out of the passenger seat and you must be in the driver's seat. You must get out of the passenger seat and get in the driver's seat. And when you realize that's where you're at in your life, that's one of the most powerful things you can ever realize. And that's something that I realized after a couple of years ago. And it was a big contrast between who I was when I was in hospitality and then who I was after. Because I realized after that I was a victim. And I played the victim and I believed all this negative fucking bullshit and that all my problems were down to my job and the people that I work with and fucking whatever else thing I could blame outside of myself. And the reality was, it was my life. I was in the driver's seat and I was steering it in the wrong direction. And the only time that I got fucking sorted was when I realized it was me steering it in the wrong direction. And if I wanted to go right, I'm going to have to start changing the way I steer and drive. That's me taking responsibility for where I'm going and sorting it out. And for so many of you who might struggle, you need to come to the same realization that it's you in the driver's seat, you determine the outcome, and ultimately you're the driver of your result. And it doesn't matter what you do, it's on you to make it work. It'll hinder on whether you show up and do it or you don't. And that's your choice. And if you make that choice over and over and over again, you fail. If you make the right choice and you do it, you'll succeed. That's the truth. That's the reality of it.
Massive. Like when we were getting this together, it was kind of like, so myself and my brother had signed up to do this thing called the Race to Glory. Yeah. And that was going to be on, I don't know if it was the weekend just gone or the weekend coming up. It was in June. So that got cancelled. And then straight away, like, everything got cancelled, as you know. Yeah. And then when this was suggested, it was more or less the same distance and type of thing that was going to be done. And I was like, right, tell you what, it's after getting cancelled. Good, I'm going to do it myself. So I wasn't going to be limited by what other people were doing. Yeah. And straight away, I said, right, well, if that's not going to happen, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it myself. But there's a thing that I've been working through in my head the last couple of weeks in regards to ownership, and like you're saying about being your own secret ingredient to your own success, is I've been using ownership for myself within the tribe. So it's like a tribal ownership. Yeah. So I wasn't going to say to myself, right, that's cancelled, so I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. Someone else said it, and I said, right, why don't we all do this? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So in the same way, I'm not going to let, as a tribesman myself, I'm not going to let another tribesman fall. Yeah. Because I take ownership within the tribe. Totally. Because it's our tribe. Of course. Totally. And you're a leader within that. Yeah, of course. And I think there's a piece I was reading on this. I can't remember who I was reading it by, but it was it was an interesting part of it. And it said, responsibility equals control and control equals responsibility.
And if you think about your role within ShefFit and within the group, like you're a leader and you step up to that role. But the more responsibility you take, ultimately, the more control it gives you over your own life, and also having a hand in the success of others because you're pushing them to do the same thing. Like, that's something that's very powerful, and it's a choice, is realizing that the more responsibility you take, sure, it's going to be more difficult. Like, the responsibility that you took was, okay, well, I was supposed to do this race, it's been cancelled. Well, fuck, I still want to do the thing. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do it myself, and I'm going to challenge the others to do it as well. So yes, that's a burden to bear, but it's a responsibility that will ultimately lead you to have more control over your life, more control over your results. Basically, you're in the driver's seat. You're the one being proactive, and you're the one pushing it forward. And in any situation that you have within your life, if you're able to take responsibility of that thing, it might make it more difficult for you, but the results and the payoff for it are much, much higher. Do you know what I mean? Like, why wait for someone to tell you to do something when you can do it yourself? It's much harder to tell yourself to do it by yourself or for yourself or whatever. But
It's
when
so
you
much easier to not do it as well.
totally, but again, it's like that whole thing about raising yourself up to a standard. You know, if you expect a lot from yourself and you have very high standards for everything that you do, chances are you're going to take responsibility as well, you know, and you're going to rise to that. And sure, that's the cost of fucking excellence. That's the cost of being good. That's the cost of being a fucking high performer. Not everyone is a high performer. Not everyone wants to take the reins and fucking do the extra hard yards. But the truth is, you have to be willing to take it to a certain degree. You have to be willing to go the high road. You have to be willing to go the path least traveled in order to get the biggest results, you know. And just understand, and finishing off this episode, is that in your journey, in whatever you want to do, in your career, in your fucking personal life, in your lifestyle, in your health and fitness, whatever, it does not matter. Understand that you are the one that drives it. And if you make choices to drive yourself forward and take that responsibility, things will work out for you in a much, much more positive way. But stop staying the same as a person and expecting a different result. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the definition of insanity. You potentially got yourself into the shit in the first place. So unless you, the person, are the one to change, you're going to get the same result. So as I said, those chefs, that chef I was talking about earlier on, great guy, personally fantastic. That's not the issue. The issue was that they potentially came in with the motivated mindset, but not a mindset to change themselves, because they didn't see themselves as the problem. And that's not harsh. That's just true. A lot of the times we are the problem. That's why tough love works sometimes. Tough love, when someone tells you, no, pal, actually, this is the fucking issue. This is why you failed, and this is on you. Sometimes that's really, really important, because that gives you clarity. Do you get me? That gives you clarity and going, oh, fuck yeah, actually, do you know what? You're right. Bollocks. Whereas if someone's just to go, actually, no, it's fine. You know, it's okay. And, you know, oh, well, like, it wasn't your fault. And when does that ever help anyone? It doesn't, ever. The best thing is always fucking, who's responsible for this? Point out who's responsible, and let's fucking get some clarity here and figure it out. You know, it's always the best route. It's always, and it might be tough to deal with, but that's the truth. Are you coachable? You should be coachable. If you can't take criticism, like, fair enough if the
That's the thing.
criticism...
Who's responsible is always the same answer. Always has the same answer.
Totally.
When you ask that question.
Yeah. Anytime you're looking for the problem outside of yourself, you're the problem, you know? And that's me speaking from experience, my own experience. Anytime I've thought that someone else was the problem or something else was the problem, I was the problem. Periods in ShefFit where I was struggling with fucking recruitment and I couldn't get the ad, like, you know, my advertising to work in the business. It's like, oh, well, fucking maybe chefs don't understand. It's like, nah, maybe your ads are shit. You know, that's probably the better answer. And that's the truth. And I figured that out. And as soon as I realized that, I figured it out, fixed the problem. Whereas if I had just blamed other people for why I was failing and not getting a result, sure, how does that empower me to get a result? It doesn't. Empower yourself by being responsible for yourself and responsible for the thing that you're trying to achieve. In that, you will find the result. And ultimately, you'll find a worldview and a mindset that you can fucking carry into anything else in life and be successful at it. Responsibility equals control. Control equals responsibility. You're the secret ingredient. Don't depend on the thing you're doing. Depend on yourself. Back yourself. Get it fucking done. That's our episode for today. Like the video, as I said. Fact, you fucks. Give us an old subscription there on the old Podbean or the iTunes. 5-star review. Give us a thumbs up if you see this on social media. And what I will say to you is that if you either find yourself struggling with excuses, or you know a chef who struggles with making a lot of excuses, you know someone who struggles with excuses and, you know, always seems to stop, start and fail at things and go back to square one, tag them in this, share it with them, let them listen to it. Do you know what I mean? If you feel they need to hear it, and show support in whatever way you can. I've been Cameron.
P to the Izzo.
5 years later, we got it. We got him out. We got the name. I just left you hanging there completely. Cam here. Woohoo. Guys, that is our episode for today. Much love to all of you. We will catch you all in the next one. Petey, stay safe. Folks, stay safe out there. Wild times. Be good.